This is Tread Boldly, Leadership Lessons from the Saints, with Father Nathan Cromly.
Hey, thanks for having me back again. I'm glad to be here. Today, I want to share a question with you. I want you to think about this. Why would God want me to be his instrument? I mean, if he's God, he can do everything by definition, right? And if he's God, then he's more loving and he's better than anything that I could ever be and any love that I could ever give. What need does he have for me? Well, St. Thomas Aquinas was thinking about this, and he gave the answer. He said, God uses an instrument for three reasons. The first is so as to show greater glory. And he uses the example, he says, a king, for example, will show greater glory by having many attendants and people doing things in his name. It's a way for him to gain greater glory. And so it's true, I guess, from a worldly perspective, when people see so many people serving God, they can understand more profoundly how wonderful God is. And then he gives a second reason. He says, God also uses an instrument so that the people that he's speaking to can receive the message more profoundly, coming from somebody who's like them. Now, we understand God by his power could do anything, and yet he chooses to respect the fact that people accept messages from messengers whom they trust. And so he sends his message via messengers whom the people trust. And then the third reason that God uses an instrument, and this is the most profound one, is for the sake of the instrument themselves. Like if God is using us, it's for his glory. It's so as to be adapt for the circumstances we find ourselves in. But then especially it's a gift. It's a gift that God gives to the person to be able to do something, share somehow in the life of God himself. When you think about parents, what an incredible gift to be able to give life. I mean, that's something that only God does, and he does it in and with and through parents. That's an amazing thought. So you are blessed. God uses you by allowing you to share in his own action. Like a teacher who's able to see someone grasp knowledge and truth. That's a spiritual activity. We get to share in something God does. We teach. Well, in the same way, we could ask the question, why doesn't God do all of the leadership necessary? Well, he's the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. So he's the greatest leader that there ever was. Why then do we need to lead? And I think about this because when you look at the life of St. Peter, you see a man called to do something that he literally cannot do. I mean, who is capable of leading in the footsteps of Christ? I mean, Jesus is the center of the family of the 12 apostles. He's the center of the Christian church. How could Simon Peter step into that role? It's far beyond anything he could do of his own initiative. And you could even say, what's the point? No one could ever replace Christ. No one could ever extend his power. So why would Peter be called to do that? And why would Peter dare to take that challenge up to accept that role? I think it's important because in many ways, you and I are called by Christ to do things that, well, is really his job, things that Jesus could do. And yet he wants to use us as an instrument. He wants to work through us. And so we need to get a good grip on how this actually helps us. Well, when I look at the life of Simon Peter, I'm really blown away by the growth that Simon Peter exhibits in his life. How he became virtuous, or at least more virtuous, through the exercise of his faith, his hope, and his love in the service of the church. And God wanted him to grow, to become the Father. He wasn't born that way. It was something that he had to become, and that it had to become by practice. In our Christian world, we usually think of virtues in terms of four big ones, right? Prudence, temperance, justice, and fortitude. Those are called the four cardinal virtues. And if you look at the life of Simon Peter, he grew in all four. He practiced these virtues because he was put in a position that he took seriously. Whenever we allow ourselves to bear responsibility with love, we find ourselves needing virtues. And this is why leadership can really sanctify us. And fulfilling the call of Christ to lead and lead well with love can make us a great saint. Because if we're really leading other people with love, well, then we need to lead them virtuously. We will grow in our sense of prudence, our sense of strength, our sense of justice, and our sense of temperance. And this is why we shouldn't be afraid to embrace the action of leadership. God asks us to do the things that we are called to do, to lead in his name, because it'll make us more loving and more virtuous people.